Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining our special festive webinar today on creating holiday calendars in PaintShop Pro. I'm joined by PaintShop Professional Carole Asselin, who will be demonstrating how to prepare unique calendars using your cherished photos and how to customize them to make beautiful gifts for friends and family. As a special thank you for attending the webinar today, I'd like to offer you 10% off the Ultimate Template Bundle Volume 2, which includes 250 brand new templates, such as 2021 calendar templates, cards, collages, and more, worth over $99.99 US. And that's an exclusive discount to webinar attendees only, and is also only available for a limited time. You'll receive the coupon code to redeem this offer in a follow-up email you'll receive tomorrow. Before I pass it over to Carole, just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded. So a link to watch the webinar recording at your own convenience will also be in that follow-up email tomorrow. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. And that takes care of everything from me. I'll pass it over to Carole.
So hi, some of you might know me and I love to use the resources in PaintShop Pro to create custom projects. So today we are going to look at different ways you can create your own calendars, whether you want to make it one page per month or more in different formats, if you want to print them at home or get them printed at a print shop. Of course, if you want to customize a calendar, it will take a bit of more time than if you are to use something already made or pre-made. And if you want to do something pre-made, you always have in PaintShop Pro in the templates. If you go on top here, new to templates, in the what's new, you have a few calendars here. For example, you can click on this one and you will get the template for excuse me, for this template. So once you purchase it, you will have the month and you'll have some areas for your own photos. So everything can be customized that way. But today we are going to make it the long way. So when you create a calendar, you will typically include the dates. Of course, it's a calendar, some photos that you want to showcase. You'll have the month. So if you have different pages for different month, you'll have, of course, the month, and that's going to be another element that can be customized. And you can have some extra elements, whether they are decorations, space to add notes, particular elements that you want to add maybe on the calendar. For example, a little heart for the Valentine's Day, a pumpkin for Halloween, etc. So what I'm going to do is start by creating the base of a calendar, assuming that you like a calendar with boxes where you can actually write notes, your dentist appointment or first day of school, other appointments, or you can also use those little boxes if you want to add, for example, photos of family members, which can be kind of a nice touch if you want to give the calendar as a present to an older person or maybe somebody who has memory issues. That's kind of a cool idea that some people have implemented. So to start, I'm going to start with an empty canvas, and I'm going to use a box that's going to be 300 by 200 pixels. Excuse me. And this is just going to be the box for the individual dates. So I'm going to select all. So I go to selection, select all, and I will modify, contract, and I'll contract by, let's say, about 4 pixels. So my boxes won't be touching on the edges. Using the flood fill tool, I'll use black to fill. You can choose a different color and you can see later that you can actually change those colors too. And you go to Selection, Modify, and Contract again. I'll go again with 4 pixels and hit the Delete key. And now I can deselect with Control D. And this is going to be the base for my individual boxes. Now I want to create a the month, and for the month I will have, of course, 7 days, so I'll need 7 columns. So with a different blank canvas, I'm going to use here 2100 pixels wide. That's going to be 7 times the 300 I had. And for the height, I want 6. Of course, we don't necessarily have 6 weeks in a month, but sometimes the dates of the month will spread over 6 lines. So I'm going to go with 1200 pixels. So this is going to be the size of my date boxes, if we can call them like that. And since I don't want to redraw everything, I will use this image number 3 as a pattern to fill my larger month. So in my materials palette, I will choose the gradient, no, not the gradient, sorry, the patterns tab, and find my image number 3. Keeping the scale at 100 and the angle at 0, now I'll be able to flood fill with all the boxes, and everything is going to be perfectly even. Now that we have the base, we want to add the dates. And on this, for this, let's say that we start with January. January will start on a Friday. So depending on how you start your calendar, some people start on Monday. Personally, I start on Sunday. So I have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the number 1, the January 1st, will be on this first box. So I'll activate now my text tool. And I want to have here, I'll just right click on the swatch so I can get one of those basic 10 colors. So I'll use black for a fill, and I don't want any outline. Again, I'm working with black. It's just easier to see, but we can change that later. It's not a problem. And let's see what font I want to use. I have a little one here called Fatty, kind of fun. And I'll use a size of 72 pixels. And if I find that it's too big or too small, I can always readjust. So in order to make sure that all my dates are going to be very even and aligned, I will align my cursor with the corner of a box. The dates won't be left there, but it's just simply because the boxes are already even and aligned, so I might as well use that. And I want to align my dates on the right. So I will probably have my dates on the top, but right now I'm going to align at the corner at the bottom and do 1. So that's good enough. So I accept, and I'll go for the number 2. I accept and keep going. Of course, we change line. Number 3. If I click somewhere else, that will accept automatically, so I don't have to go up all the time. I'll go with 4, 5. This one I can see I was off, so I will realign. It seems to be a little bit off. But some digits are not necessarily aligned with the others. So if you really, really need to, you can always rearrange them after. I'm going a little bit faster than you would. You probably would want to zoom in, for example, to be more precise. But you'll get the idea. We might as well, whoops, I don't want it there. We might as well make it all the way. And you will see also that this 1 month that we are creating for January, you'll be able to use it for other months. So you don't have to redo this whole process manually for every month, which will save you a lot of time. We're almost there. And 30. And you can see how now for the 31, it will end up on another line. Some calendars will have 2 dates, like the 24th and the 31st will be on the same box. But if you have room, why not make the whole lines for those? So now we have our dates, and I can use now my pick tool or my move tool, and I can align my dates, and you can see how they will be aligned on the top right if that's what I want. So this is how I can create at first my boxes. Okay, so let's assume we want to create the whole month, a whole page for the month of January. I'm going to keep this and create a blank canvas now that will be, I'll make it 8 by 10 simply because that is a size that can be printed at home on most printers. So 8 inches, if I'm using a resolution of 300 pixels per inch, it's going to be 2400 by 3000 pixels. So this is going to be my whole page. If this is my month of January that I want to use, I will just, I'm going to reduce it a bit, and I'm going to use here merge, copy, merged. So it's going to copy everything here, and I'll go on the other page and I can paste it as a new layer. So I have my month here. Very simple, and I don't have to realign anything because I merged or I copied a merged copy or version of this image. So let's add now the month. So we want to have the month of January. So I can use the same font. Probably I will be using something larger. And I can have this. Well, I'm not too crazy about this particular font. I would like to use something a little fancier. So there is a font that I have, and you can probably find others that you will like, and it's called Mama. And if you look in the list of fonts here, you can see it's not a true type. It's not TT that has an icon. It's different because it's an OTF. This font has extra glyphs, so something kind of fun to play with. I'm going to look, okay, I'm just going to enlarge it. Let's accept. Make it larger. What is fun with this particular font is that it has other letters with something fancy. You cannot access those directly in PaintShop, but there is a way around it. So you can go into your Windows and you search for a character map application here. So when you have this open, you open to the font that you have or you want to use. So these are the characters that you can get, but you want some extras. For a way to access this, you have to go at the bottom. So it's possible that you don't see anything. So you click on the advanced view, group by Unicode subrange. Not sure why, but and then at the bottom you have private use character. And then you can scroll down and you will see sometimes different glyphs, different designs. Sometimes there are little extras. And in this case, we don't see very well, but it's actually a letter that has a tail, either at the beginning or at the end. So we can recognize here is a T. So using my cursor, I'm going to go, that should be U, V, W, X, Y. So since January ends with the Y, I'm going to select this. You can see how it looks. It's going to be fun. So you highlight it, copy it, and then you go back to your PaintShop and highlight the letter you want to replace, and Control V, you paste it, and you can accept. So now you can see how this looks different and interesting. It depends on what kind of font you find. I found several of those fonts on uh, Creative Fabrica. They have free fonts, and once in a while you can find some fun fonts like these. So this is how I can add the month with a font that is a little different than something very standard. Let's add now our photo. So I'm going to open a photo, was provided by a friend of mine, Sue. She makes beautiful photos. And my image or my page here was 2400 pixels. So I'm going to resize this to, maybe I'll go with 2500 pixels in width. I like to always resize slightly larger so I can tweak. Sometimes I can align my element or my image. So once it is resized, I will copy and paste as a new layer, put it on top of my page. But of course, I want to have it in the layers palette below everything. In this case, I'm really lucky that the bottom is like mostly of the same color. So I can use my my dropper tool, select this white, which is not perfect white, which is fine in winter. Even the white snow is tinted somehow. And using my flood fill tool, I will flood fill the layer right below. Oops, I forgot to change here. That was still a pattern. Make it a solid color. And here it is. So that is how I can create my month, my calendar month. If I find that the calendar here is way too big, maybe I want to have some room to write notes and everything, I can resize it. One little tip I would suggest is that if you want to create several pages and you want to have the calendars always of the same size, to resize it using the resize command, and whatever if you choose to resize it by pixels or by percentage, you will always use the same settings to resize the other months. So for example, in this case, if let's say I want to go with 75%, and I want to make sure I don't resize all the layers, it's only the calendar part. So it is like this. And if I want it smaller, that is fine. It's really up to you. You can have the calendar here. You can choose to change the month. You can add the days or the initials you can have, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can skip that if you're, already familiar with using a calendar. That is fine. So that is how you can create this fun calendar, and you have elements on the side. So I was using this month box to create my calendar here. Since I was using a standard size box here, there's a way to change the look of the box to something different without having to redo everything. So let's see what I can do here. For example, let's say I want to not have this black frame. I'll just hit the delete key. I might use here the rectangle tool, which is a vector. I want to create it on a vector, and maybe I want to have rounded corners. So I have horizontal radius of 20 and 20. The width, maybe I'll want to have like 5 pixels in width. I will want to have a color. Maybe I'll want a blue and nothing to fill. So trying to remove this. It doesn't work. Okay, I'll have to move it out of the way. There. So I have my blue. And I will draw my boxes. I only have to draw one. I didn't change the size. So now I can go in the materials palette, click on the foreground, go in the pattern tab, and I'll find my image number 3, which now has a blue rounded rectangle. Keep the scale exactly the way it was. And now on this image, I'll just dock this again. At the bottom, I will just hide this layer so I can use it later instead of redoing it. No sense in redoing everything. Adding a new raster layer, and with the flood fill tool, if I flood fill, you can see how everything is still in place. My dates are still exactly where they were supposed to be, and everything is perfectly aligned. If I want to change that, I can change the color very easily. If I lock the transparency, I can select all, and now I can choose a different color. I'm going to use another solid color. If I click, you can see how it changes to red. Or if I want to have it yellow, I change it. I can even use a gradient if I want. I want to use one of the gradients here, 0 angle, and I can flood fill, and you can see how I have this gradient. So it's really fun that without having to redo everything, you can change the color. So I'm just going to go back to a blue, go to solid, and I will deselect with Control D. So this is how I can create 1 month. But now let's say that I want to create a month for February. Well, I can change the photo, I can change the name of the month, But for the dates, I will have to redo everything, right? No, not exactly. You don't have to. So I will show you a little trick, is that first of all, you might want to keep this as is with a vector. So in order to not touch the vector at this point, I will duplicate my image. So with Shift D, so I have a duplicate. This one I'll just minimize, or I can save it as a PSP image, so I can save it and reuse it later. This one I will leave my transparency the way it's supposed to be. And now for the dates, on this one, I will right click and convert to a raster layer. So now I have the boxes and I have the dates. Of course, if you can see that if January starts on a Friday, well, February will start here on the Monday. I hope I didn't miss any date. Okay, so I want to move the one to Monday, but of course, if I use my move tool and I move it, everything will move with it. And well, that's not the easy way. Let's use now the selection tool, and we will separate every column to its own layer. So I'm going to select all the numbers on the Sunday here. In the layers palette, right click, promote this selection to its own layer. So you can see here all the dates for the Sunday. And I'll go back to the original with everything, and I'll hit the delete key to remove it. Now I select everything on the second column, right click, promote, down, delete. And I'll do that for every column. Promote, down, delete. Promote, down, delete. Almost done. Promote, down, delete. And here, promote, down, delete. And then there's one left, which is going to be the last column. So I deselect with Control D. Now I can just use my move tool and move the whole column, because of course, if the first is on a Tuesday, well, you know that the next Tuesday is going to be the 8th and the 15th and so on. So you just move this to now the second column, which will match your 31st. I'm just going to move them like this, then the number 3 here, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 goes there. So now you can realign them correctly. The corner. I was putting them in the center simply so it didn't overlap, and I was able to grab everything as needed. Okay, and of course we know that, well, February does not have 31 days. So I can simply select those 3 here, and I'll go on each of the layers to remove them. But since I already took the time to separate all my columns, I might want to save this as a PSP image so that if I remove the dates for February, I don't have to re-add them for March and so on. So once you are at this point and you have all those columns of dates separate, it's time to save it as a PSP image. And then you can always, like I said, you can select the dates that you don't need, and we'll go to this one, this, I think it was on top, this. And Also, I did not delete my black boxes, so I'm just going to use the black boxes. And I can now copy merge and paste it as a new layer on another image if I want to have the month of February, for example. So in this case, I would save it. Of course, always save as a PSP image just in case you find that, oh, I forgot a particular uh, detail, or maybe I made a typo, it happens, and stuff like that. So those are possible. Once you have the PSP image, you have the flexibility to correct or add to your page. It doesn't necessarily mean you want to fix an error. It could be, oh, I would like to add something in particular. Maybe I want to add my child's photo on January 5th because that's his birthday. That is fine. You always have those options to create the calendar the way you want. So let's just make something for February. Okay, another full size. Again, I will go with copy merge back to my image, Control V where I will paste it. And remember, in this case, I resized it by 75%. So I will do the same now. Resize 75%, not all the layers. So that way they will match. And I have here February. Why reinvent the wheel? I'll just copy it, paste it, and I can just edit. February ends with the same nice Y that is used here, so I might as well just use it. So February, and I have my month here. I might want to resize, but of course, if you want to have something consistent, you might want to have the same size for your month. Of course, some months are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. So for example, May and June will be very short, while December and November will be longer. And I can find another photo for this. I guess I should have used maybe this one for December, maybe for Christmas. Again, I will try to find, this one is 2300 pixels, so it's slightly smaller than I need. So I'll just copy, paste as a new layer, and it's very close to the edge. So I'm just going to cheat a little bit, use my pick tool, set to scale, and enlarge it a tiny bit. Not a good idea to enlarge too much, except that now with PaintShop 2021, we have in a resize, we can resize using the AI powered. So you can actually size up with much better result than in the past. And I'll move my photo at the bottom, try to rearrange my elements. And here is the edge. Unlike the January one, I don't have kind of a solid color. So what I will want to do is use a color from the bottom here. So using my dropper tool, maybe use something light enough, and flood fill there. But since I don't want a very sharp edge, what I can do is use a mask to make the edge a little feathered. So activating my picture, I'll use a mask that says show all. So everything is in white. And I will want to use a gradient and there's either a black and white or you have a fading background. So I want to fade the background. So everything that is white is going to be visible because black will block. So I'm going to flood fill here. You can see how the bottom is black and it blocks the photo, but I can move that. So using my pick tool, I can just go to the point where it will um, uh, hide a little bit and feather. I can narrow here. So the feathering is going to be just on the edge here and it kind of makes a nice transition. And I don't have to play too much because at the bottom there was nothing to show. If my photo had been full size, then at the bottom I would have had to fill that with black because I would have wanted to block it. So this is one other way to showcase your photo. Okay, so now that we saw how to create those boxes with changing colors, you can really go very creative with these boxes. As long as you don't change the size, you don't change the scale, you're fine. For example, I can just convert this one to a raster and maybe with my selection tool, I will select the top and the bottom and remove this. You can see how I have only a little corner. I can use that as a fill for my box if I want to have something different. So again, on a new raster layer, in my materials palette, I'll find the pattern, image number 3, which is now different. No, don't change anything as the scale or angle, and you flood fill with it, and you can see how you do have yet a different look for your calendar. So you can be going very creative for this. Now, this is kind of the standard way to create your calendar. Of course, you can, if you wanted to remove completely the boxes, you can have these, just the dates. That's also a possibility. But maybe you have a nice photo and you don't really want to reduce it in size, you want it full size, and you don't want to cover it. So this is an example. For example, if you are not opening that, if you want to showcase throughout the months of the year, you want to showcase different events or maybe your vacation or sunsets. I have here really nice sunset. Let's say I want to have this on a regular standard page. I want to do that. I'm going to switch. I'm going to have it horizontal because this photo really looks better in that orientation. And this is too large, so I'm going to size it down to by pixels. If I size it down to 3000, you can see how it's going to be too narrow. It's not going to be as high. So I'm going to try to 2400 in height, and it will adjust to 32 in width. So that way I won't get any gap. I'd rather have my image slightly wider and not have any gap. Okay, so I have a really nice picture here. I don't want to have my calendar blocking this area. What can I do? Well, there's a different way you can have your calendar. Might not be the most convenient if you want to put your dentist appointments and such, but it can still be interesting. And I'm going to be using here, instead of using black, I'm going to use white. And with my text tool, I will find just a regular font. So for the demonstration, you can change that. I'm just going to use the basic Arial. which is common, and it's going to be bold, so it's going to be fine. And I don't want any stroke, so 150 is probably a little bit too much. I'm going to go with, let's say 60 pixels. I can adjust later. And I want to start on the left. And I'm going to simply write down the numbers in a single row. So for the single digits, I'll have 2 spaces. For the double digit, I'll have only 1 space. So I'm going to go with 1. Oops. So let's imagine this was taken maybe in July. So it has 31 days. So you have here all your dates. If it's too narrow, I can increase, for example, my size to 65. It goes a little bit uh, larger. Or I can also change here and increase the kerning. The inconvenience here is that it will also spread apart the digits that are supposed to be together and not just the space in between. But sometimes it can be one way to make it fit. And I have my dates here. So I'm going to use my January here, just so I don't have to redo everything. I just like that font. And I will highlight it all. So Control A, and I will switch that to white. Remove the outline, and I'll change, of course, to the month of July. And I can resize it, if I want. So that way I do not overlap or hide that nice picture I have. Now, of course, when you have the dates like this, it's kind of hard to know like which one is Sunday, which one is a weekend, and so on. But there's a way, and we can use the locking the transparency if we want to color, for example, the weekend dates. So I'm going to go with this one, which are the dates, and right-click, convert to a raster layer. Because if it's not a raster layer, although I could change it, and maybe I'll show that too. Since it is a single object, I can highlight, like, let's see, I'm not sure, with July, okay, Saturday, Sunday are 3 and 4. So let's go. So I can highlight 3 and 4 and change the color to something else. I would like to have something that maybe comes from the color here. So I'm going to use a yellow. Let's go back to the text tool. Highlight the 3 and the 4 and go with, I'll just click on it and pick my yellow here. No black. And I can go to the next. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next 2. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. And click. So you can see how you can have those dates change in colors while they are vectors. But if you don't want to do it that way, I'll just accept. And I'll go back to all white. I can right click, convert to a raster, and then lock my transparency, activate my paintbrush to a size that will accommodate one of the dates. So that's about it. So I can paint, oops, wrong color. I'm going to use the foreground. So 3 and 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll go 10, 11, and then it's going to be, oops, didn't do the 11. So now it's going to be 17 and 18, and then 24, 25, and then 31. And that way I can have my dates, know a little bit more where my Saturdays and Sundays are, and I can that way showcase my beautiful pictures. Let's unlock the transparency. Don't forget that, because sometimes the next steps might be a little more not behaving properly. And you can have your dates at the bottom, something like this. And that way, if you have several pages like this, you can have them bound at the print shop or local place, and you'll have something actually fantastic to create as a gift you can hand to your family members, friends. These could be photos of the kids, of the family vacation. So it could be also something that they will remember being in that at that cottage, or that outing when they went skiing, or that family gathering when they had the big barbecue. This can be really interesting. And this approach here can also be used if instead of a calendar that you want to print, you might want to use this as a desktop background. Why not? You just have, in that case, to use the dimension of your monitor. So whether maybe it's a 1920 by 1200, or depending on your monitor, you can do that. And if you are really patient, you can also have a poster made, and you can have all those little individual months, and you can have them all on one side or on two sides, depending on the dimensions of the poster. So again, that way it could be how you would showcase or a single photo for the whole year. So it could be a family photo. It could be like, I don't know, your new house that you bought that year, uh, or the one photo that won the photo contest locally. You can showcase that one photo and have several months for it. If you have 3 photos, you can have 4 months. Why not have a season per page? So there are so many ways that you can customize your calendar. You can have the dates in boxes. You can have the dates in a single line. You can even also have the dates vertically. Why not? And then you can add little lines on the side. So let's see if we could do that on this one. Let's say I'm going to hide these dates. Maybe I will want to add the dates vertically. So again, I'm going to use white because my background is quite dark, and I can go with the dates 1 and just return every time. And you can see how it has too many, it's too high. So no problem, I'll just select all. I can either size down a bit with the text, or even if I leave it at 65, which is a little too high, I can go in the options here and change the leading by like minus 0.1. And you can see how the space between the lines now has reduced. So you can do that. Maybe you want to have your dates aligned to the right, and you have your dates here. Then let's move July somewhere else. And just like you did for the other ones, you can highlight or change the color for the individual dates in order to match, for example, the weekend. And if you, let's say that you want to have maybe a little box with lines, well, let's just make that very quickly, and you'll see how it's another option that you can add. So when I have my cursor at the bottom of, or wherever on my image, at the very bottom here, you will see the X and the Y value. So if I go at the bottom of the 1, I see that the Y value is about 120. And if I go at the bottom of the 2, it's about 180. So that means about 60 pixels in between. Let's make it 60 pixels high. And I'll make a width of 100 pixels. So I'm going to create a simple line using my pen tool. And I want my line to use the stroke. I just make sure it's white, make a whole, just a straight line like this. This is going to be used, let's see, that's image 9. I'm just going to use that as a fill using my selection tool. I'm going to make something up to the bottom on a new raster layer. And I will flood fill using my image 9 that I just had. Where is it? Image 9. Using my scale 100%, and I fill, and I have my lines. You can see my lines a little bit big, so I might change my mind. And since it's a vector, double click on it, and I can change this to 5. I go on here, let's delete, go back to this, go to select the number 9 again, and I flood fill, and you can see my lines are a bit better. I think they were not perfectly straight, which is why they are not straight here, but you would probably do better. So I will deselect with Control D, and I will align the lines with the number 1. And if, like you see, they are not perfectly aligned, not a problem. I will just use now my pick tool and stretch them to the point where they would match. I'm just going to. So I didn't have to measure too precisely. I think it's a little bit still. And 1, 2, it's not exactly. I'm still having to go. And that looks better. And I can just then, using my selection tool, remove the extra line at the bottom. And I'll move my month of July somewhere else. Could be here, could be on the other side. And I have another unique calendar that I can print, or I can use as a desktop if I want. So I hope I gave you a few ideas to create your own custom calendars, and you can create that fairly easily and get them printed, and probably you'll have time to print them and send them as gifts for the holidays. So that's what I had to show for today.
Thanks so much for that excellent presentation, Carole, and thank you to everyone for your attendance today. Just a quick reminder to watch out for a follow-up email you'll receive tomorrow, which includes a link to watch the recording of this webinar, as well as a coupon code to redeem 10% off the Ultimate Template Bundle Volume 2, which includes 250 brand new templates. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. See you next time.